This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
California, with an aching in my heart. You are correct, sir. All right, let's get into a little Miami Hurricanes talk. Manny Navarro has landed in Raleigh. He is headed to Chapel Hill, ready to watch the boys tomorrow. How you feeling, bro? Did you have any Kens or Karens on the flight?
No, we lucked out. There was none of that, Big O. But we are just standing here in the waiting to deplane here for like 10, 15 minutes. So we'll see if anybody turns into one of those here in the next few minutes.
Wait a minute, deplane? Like you haven't left the airport?
No, I'm still. We landed in Raleigh. We're just waiting to get off the plane.
Oh, I see. Oh, so oh, I see. Okay. So you have
Yeah.
landed in Raleigh. Okay, I got you now. All right,
Yep.
deplane, like get off the damn thing and get into the gate. All right, I got you now.
Yep.
All right, good stuff there. All right, so the boys, is there going to be a change on offense now because there are two different quarterbacks that we're going to watch? So how much of an adjustment is going to happen? And I know it's kind of unfair because you don't get to watch practice or anything like that, but I would imagine that things are going to change, right? Because of the different styles.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw a little bit of it in the Virginia game, right? I mean, it was much more about pocket protection and not moving him out of the pocket or rolling him out. So I think in this game, you're going to see Miami play more of a style that's, either direct handoff or on the rare occurrence where you see Tyler Van Dyke take off and run, but it's not going to happen as often nearly as it did with De'Ara King. And I think they're going to ask him to get rid of the ball quicker. One thing Tyler talked about this week was, sort of finding those dump-off receivers instead of holding onto the ball and taking a sack. I think you're going to see him try to get rid of the ball underneath a little bit more and take his shots, but not hold on to the ball too long.
Is when you start looking at right now recruiting and everything else going on, how much is on the line in this game? Not so much the ACC, but everything else that we talk about.
Well, I mean, they lost their first commitment this week, a top 100 player out of Alabama, a kid who I guess is being pursued more now by Alabama. So it's kind of the first real crack as far as, losing somebody important in their recruiting class. And I don't know that they would have held on to him anyway, even if they were 3-2 or 4-1 right now. But certainly, I think the big picture is, how does the future recruiting sort of pan out here? They've only got 8 commitments. Their shot at getting some of the elite kids, I think, is on the line here. You got at some point here, you have to turn the season around and start winning. And even if they don't win the division, I think there's still things you could do to show teams that, hey, we're heading in the right direction. But if you lose this game on Saturday, I think you kind of send that message that it's time to start taking some kids that maybe normally wouldn't come to Miami because those are the only kids you can get.
Remember, you can follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro, and of course, subscribe to The Athletic so you can catch his terrific work, giving you the insight you need on the Canes every week. Manny, when you look at Diaz right now and the coaching staff, have they lost these players, or have they lost the players that they no longer will play, and they're keeping the young guys that are playing? Those are the guys that they're going to keep their focus. How do you view this locker room? Is this a locker room that's kind of divided? Is it a locker room that's united? Because there are people that are talking about that this group hasn't quit on them. But I'm wondering if you're a player that maybe is now casted aside. I don't know how you keep that person focused.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's happening right now is the guys who have been casted aside for some of the younger players, they've basically, just walked out the door. I think guys like Mark Pope and D. Wiggins and Sam Brooks Jr., guys that were sort of at the end of the rotation or lost their spots, I think those are the guys that have basically decided, like, look, I've got to find somewhere else to play. I've got to start the process of figuring out where to go. So I think it's just some of the older players that have been phased out. I still think, very much the young guys on this team, the future of this team is still bought in. You're getting guys who are getting an opportunity to play a lot more now over the last few weeks. And so I don't think he's losing the team per se. I just think he's losing some of the dead weight that he probably needed to lose before the season.
Now, I'm with you there. Who are the young guys that for the average Kane fan that's either watching or listening to this segment, who are
Mhm.
the young guys that Canes fans need to focus in on? That these are the guys that they're turning the page with, and guys we should look at that, okay, this is the future of the Miami Hurricanes football program.
Yeah, well, certainly I think a guy like Jalen Knighton, who just came back, right, from suspension after 4 games, I think he's a guy that in the backfield, you look at him and Don Chaney Jr. and you say, okay, this is the future. Not that Cam Harris has done anything to necessarily lose, his opportunity yet. He's played a couple good games back to back, but I think overall, a guy like Jalen Knighton's going to start to get more touches. I think the receivers, the Romello Brinsons, the Brashard Smiths, Jacoby Georges of the world, all of those guys are going to start to get more involved in the rotation. You may see less of, Mike Harley and some of these other guys who have not always been consistent. Certainly Elijah Royo at tight end. You've had Will Mallory struggle. I mean, he's a fourth-year junior right now, and he's really struggled. And I think, in some ways, you got to start getting the other guy ready, his replacement. The offensive line, Ja'Kai Clark just came back from that shoulder. He's the center of the future. Defensively, you got Leonard Taylor, you've got James Williams, 2 guys that are already part of the rotation. I don't know. I mean, I think you're going to see Marcus Clark at cornerback. You'll see Avonte Williams next week. He's another one of their safeties.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of guys that I think you're going to see here in the weeks ahead that can certainly make an impact and be good players. And, maybe not elite, first-round picks, but play at a level that is on par with the guys that they're replacing or better.
What happened to Mallory? Why was I so off on him? I thought he would be pretty damn good this year. Is it his fault? Is it the offense? Is it the coaching? How would you read into it?
I think it's a combination of things. I think part of it is, he's not. He had Brevin Jordan to take a lot of heat off of him right before,
Right.
and now he's the number 1 guy. And I think defenses are sort of used to whatever Rhett Lashley's going to call for him. And so he's not creating a lot of great separation. And a lot of the passes that are thrown to him are sort of underneath, short routes. And he's just not doing a good job holding on to the football right now. So I think a lot of it is just schematically teams are taking him away and forcing Miami to go to the outside. And, those guys in the past haven't held on to the ball either. So I think it's a good strategy by most defenses. I just think right now, Will Mallory's, kind of a victim of his situation. He's just not playing well, and I don't think they're scheming him up well enough to free him up to do the things that he can do well.
Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. Manny, we'll wrap it up with this. The offense for UNC can get hot. They've had their off moments too so far this year, but dude, they've hit the 50-point mark a couple times already.
Yeah.
So Sam Howell, we know Sam Howell is an NFL type quarterback that they've got there. The challenge for Miami's defense to slow them down, because I would imagine that's got to be the main key to trying to get a victory here.
Got to tackle, man. That's what it all comes down to, right? You got to be able to slow them down, not let them get the explosive play. They're not as explosive as they were last year at North Carolina, and their offensive line hasn't played very well. But I think, Miami's defense has been so putrid to this point. They're letting balls go right through their hands on turnovers. They're not bringing guys down on sacks. They're having major breakdowns in zone defense. They're very much susceptible to getting routed in this game. But hey, Manny Diaz wanted to be defensive coordinator. It's his time to shine. It's his time to figure it out. This is a very important game for Manny Diaz. If Mac Brown and these guys run him out of the building again, I don't know how he can defend himself in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, well, Max owned him. What'd you do? What'd you pick in this game?
I'm picking North Carolina to win, but I think it'll be a tight game. I don't think they're good enough to blow Miami out right now, and I think Manny still has a team that's going to fight. I just think offensively, it's tough to ask a second-year freshman first road start under this kind of situation where there's so much pressure on the team. So I think I'm picking North Carolina 34-31.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. Better coach, better quarterback, and they're home. I have to lean to North Carolina, unfortunately, man. It absolutely sucks. Manny, enjoy the game, my brother. Be safe in your travels. I appreciate you taking some time, my man. You be good.
Anytime, brother. Talk next week.
You got it. There you go. Manny Navarro in our Canes Wear Miami Hurricanes report. How about that dedication, dude? He's like on the plane, getting off the plane, still doing the segment. He's just an absolute stud, man. Really appreciate everything that Manny brings to the table. Really do.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.